Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Patreon podcast. So this week I wanted to talk about the idea of affirmations. So the short version of what affirmations are is you spend a little time every day to write down your goals. And what will happen is that those goals will start to align with your life. Now, I initially heard about this through a book from Scott Adams. He's the creator of Dilbert. He had a book called The Dilbert Future, which overall was pretty funny and pretty good, especially for something that came out in like early 2000s. But at the end, he had this afterword where he talked about like how affirmations affected his life and how he got famous. He got a career through cartooning, and he beat cancer and all of this other stuff, which I feel is misrepresenting what affirmations do. What I feel that affirmations do is they allow you to kind of reprogram your brain on a subconscious level. And what I mean by that is that you might be able to affect the outside world or anything like that. And that's kind of outside of what I care about, because I don't really have any I don't have any cause and effect for that. I always struggled in the higher math classes because of this too, because people just said, use this formula, it works. And they don't really describe how it works or why it works. They just say that it works. And because of that, I really have a hard time believing that if you write out, well, I don't have cancer, then you're not going to have cancer. It's kind of like one of those things where, yes, there are outside forces in the world that will affect you. Regardless, what I want to talk about is how affirmations work for me and how I think that they can work for anybody without all of the mysticism around the rest of it. Excuse me. And I actually have mine right here, and I'm going to read these to you. This is what I write frequently. And what I want to do is I want to affirm, I want to reaffirm, and I want to tell myself that what I do has value. And because of this, because I'm sitting down and I'm writing all of this out and I'm putting a pretty strong effort into doing this, this helps teach my brain that these are important subjects for me. And because my brain is more focused on these subjects, on these topics, I'm able to probably, and this is all kind of just what works for you. It's kind of smoke and mirrors a little bit, but I feel that it's kind of convincing yourself that this stuff is important to you. And because, excuse me, and because you're convinced that this stuff is important, you will find opportunities and you will find things in the world that you might have otherwise missed. They're still there, but they aren't something that you might have seen in the past. And I think that that's the important distinction where when it comes to becoming a famous cartoonist or beating cancer, it's some of that stuff is just left up to chance. And that chance is not really something that affirmations can affect. But when it comes to finding the right opportunities, I think that that's where this stuff really shines. And what I wanted to do, I write a lot on this, and I only write probably twice or three times a week. I try to do it every day, but I forget a lot. But I wanted to focus on my music, and my music is really important to me. And I might change this to the content I create, but right now it's the music that I write. So I'm going to read through this real quick, and I think that you'll see what I mean by what affirmations can do. They can add... I'm basically, what I'm trying to do with this is I'm trying to convince myself that the art that I make has value. And that sounds silly, but really, as a creator, I'm sure you understand that sometimes you don't feel like your art has value. And there's a couple things in here that I'll talk about specifically, but I'll just read through it real quick. So, the music I write is worth more than the time it takes to listen to it. The music I write is worth more than the money in people's pockets. The music I write helps inspire and encourage others on their own personal creative journeys. The music I write is transformational in other people's projects. The music I write moves people both physically and emotionally. The music I write, I am proud to listen to. The music I write brings people together. The music I write brings value into the world both artistically and culturally. The music I write has power. And you can kind of see a common thread through all of this. I tried to start the affirmation with a common phrase. And I think that that's really important because that can be kind of a trigger word for you to associate all of these things together. Beyond that, I wanted to talk about how the music I have make has value, both the time it takes to listen to it and the value that it is worth more than the money in people's pockets. And this is something that I got from Scott Bowden, I believe, from the Akimbo podcast, where he talks about really the only reason why somebody buys something is because it's worth more than the money they have in their pockets, because it's a transaction that I think that they feel benefits them. After that, I wanted to focus on being sure that I inspire and encourage others, because that's one of the very strong tenets for me as a creator in general. I want to bring people together. And it kind of goes on from there just to other things that are important to me. Like I want the music that I write to be transformational in people's projects. I want it to elevate the project. I want to move people both physically and emotionally. I want people to have a response to the music I make. And then probably the silliest one, but also probably the most important one, is the music I write I am proud to listen to. And this is essentially just saying, excuse me, the music that I put together and that I put out into the world is something that I should be proud of. And that's not always been the case in the past. So I think that it's important to put value on that. So anyway, I could go on, but the important thing is that I write these, and I sit down and I write them every couple days, and I try very hard to make it kind of sit down, and I try to find a quiet place, and I listen to my own music, and I just sit down and write these out, and then I keep these in my pocket with my notebook, kind of as a talisman, as a reminder that this is stuff that's important to me. And I think that writing things out physically is also an important part of this process, because it engages not only your brain, but your entire body, because you have to sit down and you have to write, and writing by hand is a lot of effort, especially these days when it's easy to clack stuff out on a keyboard. So excuse me. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover on this, but I'm super curious what your thoughts are on this. So I would love to hear if you have any comments. Feel free to get in touch with me on Twitter. But I think that's pretty much all I have. Thank you so much for listening and being a supporter of this Patreon. I hope you have a great weekend. Whoop, there we go. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next time. Be remarkable.